This is one of those cases where I'm like, almost 100% sure you haven't heard about that, unless you're Norwegian, because this case brings us to a small fishing village in Norway where a mysterious UFO ring appeared. Is it really UFO or is it something else? Let's look into it. There is a small island in Norway called Espavær, and it's located in the Vestland county. And it's like one of those small idyllic fishing villages that you can imagine on pictures telling about Norwegian fishing history. And this place really has a very rich cultural heritage. Historically, Espavær was the largest fishing village in Bomlo in the Vestland county, and it attracted as many as 300,000 fishermen because in 1850s that area was very rich in herring. Nowadays, in this village, there live like merely around 100 people. Also, if you're seeking for more down-to-earth life and you would love to escape the busy city life, Espavær is the place to go because this place boasts a carless life. So there are no cars there. You can ride a bike, you can walk, whatever, but there are no cars, which is quite unique. But apart from the cultural heritage, this place also holds a very intriguing mystery, and not so many people actually know about that. And this place has been called the UFO ring. So, in 1975, a mysterious ring suddenly appears in one of the pieces of land on this island. And what is most interesting is that you can see this ring up to nowadays, and you can actually also visit it. So in today's video, we're gonna discuss this phenomena, how it could have appeared, what is the information that's available about it, and of course, theories. Some crazy, some less. The ring was found in autumn 1975, and it was done by some random mushroom pickers. It was 26 meters long, 14 meters wide. In the 30 centimeter wide track pressed between 5 and 10 centimeters into the ground, the grass was flat but alive, while the grass both inside and outside the ring stood as normal. As I said, this island was mainly inhabited by fishermen, and during that time quite many fishermen were actually out in the sea fishing during the night. And what they witnessed was, according to what they said, was a shining object flying towards the island. And to make things more epic, during that night it was also full moon. One of the men who got really involved into researching this phenomena of UFO ring actually talked to the captain of one of those ships who was out there during that night. The ship's name was Norskjell, and the captain also allegedly showed to this man a ship log where they had written down that they saw this luminous thing flying towards the island. And this man, who said that he allegedly talked to the captain and who also was involved into investigation, his name was Øyvind Eiken. Eiken also alleged that also the ship logs from the other ships from that night had written down all the same things that the ship that I mentioned before. Several dog owners on the island also reported that during those nights their pets, namely dogs, were acting very weirdly. They were barking, but not like normally barking, they were barking hysterically, and also some of the houses got their fuse boxes exploded. So that's kind of weird, and it's also the thing that's usually associated with like UFOs and stuff. So we can assume, of course, that there was like some kind of like a plane flying over the island, but that wouldn't explain the fuse boxes exploding. And then after all of this happened, the mushroom pickers suddenly find this ring. People, of course, didn't assume that it's a UFO ring immediately. They tried to find some kind of explanations to that thing. So they were assuming maybe that's like motorbikes or children playing like left this mark. But the thing is that we still have this ring up to nowadays. So that wouldn't be the correct explanation, right? They even set forward this very crazy idea that this could be caused by rabbits, like they during that time have a mating season, so they might have left this mark from mating activities. I don't know, it doesn't make sense, but anyways, this was very quickly discarded because there are no rabbits on Espavær Island. This case was taken very seriously at the beginning, and even Royal Norwegian Ministry of Defense got involved. They sent to Espavær the largest available Air Force helicopter, and when it landed in the middle of the ring, and this ring was a lot bigger than that mark that the helicopter left there. So this just proved that if that thing was actually coming from above, from the sky, let's say, it's a lot larger than the larger helicopter they have. I guess a Ministry of Defense got involved because maybe they got a little bit scared that this thing that flew on the island could be like a vehicle that came there to spy, let's say from some enemies or something. But I guess after this helicopter experiment, they understood that this is something larger than they have, and maybe not even human-made because it's so enormous, if it was, of course, something that came from above. Some scientists from the University of Bergen were also sent to the site. They did some thorough investigation on site, and also they took some samples back to the lab. And after they examined the samples, they didn't determine anything out of the ordinary. They didn't find any explanation to this ring. I assume what they mean by that is that they didn't find any materials or bacteria or anything that was out of the ordinary. But what the scientists could determine is that this object, or whatever it was, that could have left this mark on the land, must have weighed around 50 up to 60 tons. This is mysterious because this is huge. This is enormous. Some people also suggested that this phenomenon on the land must have been caused by a ball lightning, which comes into a form of a luminous ball, basically. And that would also explain what the fishermen saw in the sea. Remember, they said that they saw a ball flying towards the island. But if this is the case, then we just have more questions, because as far as I know, ball lightning does not leave a ring-shaped thing on the ground. So I don't really believe that this could be the case. On April 1976, associate professor, his name was Finn Egil Ekblad, launched the theory that this ring was caused by fungus. And there was even an article on Norwegian newspaper about that. What I'm thinking here is that this professor is referring to something that is commonly known as a fairy ring or elf circle. I know it sounds very mysterious and fairy-like, but actually there is a normal explanation behind this, so let's just start from the beginning. In general, fairy rings are naturally occurring mushroom circles, and they can appear in forests, also on grasslands, which would literally be the case of the Espavær UFO ring. The mycelium grows underneath the ring and grows deeper in the ground where it seeks food. This is how it becomes permanent on the spot. Also, it is said that those rings can be up to 10 meters in diameter, which pretty well suits to our case. Another interesting thing is to look at these fairy circles and rings from the perspective of pagan traditions and folklore, because historically, people believe that these fairy rings possessed some kind of energy or power, and they were straight related to witches, devils, and elves or fairies. But also I found some sources that in some other folklores, these rings were supposed to bring some luck. Those superstitions and folklore stories about these fairy rings are actually quite exciting. For example, in Europe, in some places, they believe that those circles appear from the dancing of witches, elves, and devils. Also, for example, a Swedish writer, Olaus Magnus, in his History of the Goths, written on 1628, says that fairy rings are burnt into the ground by the dancing of the elves. British folklorist Thomas Caithley noted that in Scandinavia in the early 19th century, beliefs persisted that fairy rings arose from the dancing of elves. Caithley warned that while entering elf circles might allow the interloper to see the elves, although this was not guaranteed, it would also put the intruder into illusions. But what I wanted to say with this, I didn't want to tell you about the folklore, although this is very interesting. These kind of circles, they existed many years ago when people couldn't find an explanation for them even then. And this is why they came up with these stories related to mysteries and magic. Of course, we do understand that in most cases, what they saw were those mushroom rings, but maybe in some of those cases they weren't. But let's go back to the scientific explanation, namely about the fact that this ring could be caused by mushrooms. So it's a fairy ring, but it's actually mushrooms. So I read some sources that this professor actually visited Espover Island to see everything in real life. And after he saw that and investigated that, he came to conclusion that he was wrong. But what is more interesting is that I read somewhere that these mushrooms circles, they tend to grow because I guess the mushrooms are feeding from the ground and those circles become bigger and bigger. But this is not the case of the UFO ring in Espover Island, because this ring keeps the same shape and size during all of these years since the first day it appeared there. And also I believe that the students would have seen in their labs from the samples that they took that there is some kind of mushroom thing happening, and they would have said that this is mushroom and announced that, but they didn't. So I guess something's not sticking there, and also the way the professor reacted when he came to that scene. And since they couldn't find like a normal serious explanation for that ring, people then started to speculate about UFOs. They knew that if it was flying from above, it must have weighed around 50 up to 60 tons, and this must be something unusual. And this is the moment when they started to call that place UFO ring. All of the things that now I told you just adds up to another thing to the list of Scandinavian mysteries that I have covered on my channel, like Hesdalen or ghost rockets. Just, if you haven't seen those videos, check them out, because you will understand that a lot of mysteries are actually happening in Norway, Sweden, and many other Scandinavian countries, and you didn't know about them. Then I found this very interesting thing and just had this theory in my mind, you know? So what is specific about this field is that during these years, like all of these years, the islanders were celebrating on the spot something that is called Saint Hans. I know, now you're asking, what is that and what do people do during that time? Saint Hans actually refers to a Christian tradition that roots back into pagan traditions. This Saint Hans is also referred to as Jonsok or Jonsvake, vake meaning awake or watching or waiting for something to happen. Basically, it's somewhat like a midsummer, because people stay up all of the night, wait until the sun comes up. They have all of these like pagan traditions like bonfire. They also make flower wreaths. They sing songs, dance, and also they believe that all of the like greenery, like the grass or flowers, whatever, during that night has some kind of special power. And to be honest, I have done that for the largest part of my life in my home country in Latvia. We just call it Jāņi, and we do all of these pagan traditions up to nowadays, so this is very familiar to me personally. But somehow while I was reading this and in the context of this mystery, I recalled this movie called Midsommar. Have you seen it? It's really airy, mysterious, and horrific. I do suggest you watch it. It's not even related to that. I don't know, it just popped into my mind. A movie suggestion for me, you know? So bearing in mind all of these like celebrations and pagan traditions, maybe this place do really have some kind of specific energy that attracts some entities there. I don't know, I'm just like speculating, putting out some crazy theories out there. But it's not a secret that in the world there are spots that have these special vibrations, some special energy. In most cases, those are like ancient pagan tradition ritual sites or whatever. I'm not talking about vortexes or anything, although I'm not excluding. I mean, we don't know what happened there like hundreds and thousands of years ago. Maybe this place really is somewhat special, and this is why we cannot explain it up to nowadays. What I'm saying is that maybe it's not a coincidence that this ring appeared actually on that place. Maybe there is some kind of energy that we don't understand, and this is why it's there. So what is also interesting about this place, and while doing research, what I came across with is that no more like serious investigations have been made on that site. Only those ones that occurred after after the ring appeared there. As far as I think, nobody actually cares anymore, and this is why they are not looking into that very deep anymore and let it rest as it is. But one thing is for sure, Norwegians do love their UFOs and UFO stories, including Hesdalen, and they made a business out of UFO ring in Espavær. Yeah, just the same thing as in Hesdalen. So you can actually go to the island. You will have a tour guide that will tell you all of the story that I told you. Maybe add something more or less. I don't know. I haven't been on that tour. There they actually also made a very convenient path that will lead you to the ring, so you can go there, you can step in. Of course, it's on your own risk, because if we believe the pagan traditions and folklore, then it's not suggested to step in. But if you want, you can do that. You can take some pictures, you can film, you can do whatever you want. So if you are interested and you're looking for very unique places to visit in Norway, this could be one of those. So this is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed the story of the UFO ring of the Espavær. Of course, I do understand that there is not so much information about it. That's why it just makes it more mysterious. I wish I could talk to some people from those times. That would help me a lot. Or maybe I just have to take the tour and talk to the tour guide. Maybe he knows something more. Anyways, let me know in the comments if you've heard about this place. What do you think about this UFO ring? What are your theories? Let's discuss it in the comment section. Also, just reminding that I have this email here. If you have had some interesting stories, encounters with something that you couldn't explain, especially if you have photos and videos, please send them to this email. And I'm thinking of making some videos, maybe with showing or retelling them anonymously, or if you want to tell your name, it's also fine, and we could react them, discuss them, the theories and stuff. And yeah, that's it. I hope you have a lovely day. Stay curious and see you next time.